Hi, I'm Lisa Prather, and welcome to The Voice of Health with our host, Dr. Robert Prather of the Prather Practice, where lives are changed every day through the natural approach to healthcare. We're talking today about maximizing your health in the new year. This is part 2 of a 2-part series. It's the beginning of a new year. We want to talk about, I was thinking about what is it that I do to get my health in order each year. And
it's always a good time of reflection and figuring out, what you're going to do, how you're going to improve yourself, what are the things that you want to accomplish. And getting started, you can do that any time of the year.
Mm-hmm, right.
But, the new year, it just gives you a little bit more of an emphasis, like you're starting all over again. Mm-hmm. You can forget, what you did wrong the past year, and then resolve to, to do the things that you should be doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we talked about, the first thing we talked about is find out where your health is. Get the basics down first. And something you say is you don't know until you test it.
Right.
Right.
And the mentors that we had, Dr. Guyton in Guyton's Physiology, mm-hmm. said you don't know if you don't test.
Right.
So, test to find out, what's going on. And that's something that is encouraged by every different healthcare organization, insurance companies. Find out where you are, because if you can find out things early enough, it's much easier to treat at that time. It's a lot easier to fix a little fire that kind of starts over in a corner, get it out real quickly until it starts to engulf the house. It's a much, much harder. Mm-hmm. So, trying to be aware of what's going on, evaluate where you are, and unless you get a good, thorough physical, get all the lab tests that you need to do, then you don't know what's going on.
And I know, I hear patients say, I wish I would have known about you, 5 years ago.
10 years, you're right.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Right. And we're talking, getting to things before they don't become a disease process.
Sure.
Right. So very important. So we talked about that. We talked about our 3 basic diagnostics that we encourage people to do on an annual basis. Mm-hmm. Is our Prather Profile blood test, and that's covered by insurance. Stool kit. Mm-hmm. It's called the GI Effects Stool Kit. Your health is in your gut.
Yes.
Right. Hair analysis, very important. What we find on that.
Right. So. Tissue minerals, heavy metals. Mm-hmm. All those things are very important, and that gives a nice basis. And those things are good to do on everyone, from babies all the way up to 105. Mm-hmm. So it's...
What about 106?
Yeah, 106 too. Well, after 106, you probably got it down by then.
And then we talked about taking care of the nervous system, and you talked about the skeletal system protecting that nervous system.
Sure. One of the things that we were talking to someone who was talking about, we have a specialty called the Atlas orthogonal. And, we told, because she wasn't quite understanding, mm-hmm. it's not the bones, it's the effect of the bones on the nervous system that's important. Mm-hmm. So it's, chiropractors, they think of the skeletal structure, but really we're more concerned about the nervous system and how the nervous system is working, because the nervous system controls everything else. Mm-hmm. So one of the basics that I tell people is we need to get your nervous system working correctly to be able to fix almost every other problem. Because if the nervous system's not working right, you can do everything you want to do, but the controlling mechanism isn't working, it's not going to work. Mm-hmm. So making sure that that's up and running is one of the main fundamentals that we teach our patients to get done.
Very important. Very important. And we talk about, you have a specialty board certification in the Atlas Orthogonal.
Right.
Which the only one in the state of Indiana.
Right. Which is the most important part of the nervous system, is right there at the occiput, atlas, and axis area, which is the lower brainstem that controls the entire autonomic nervous system.
Wonderful. So you find out first.
Find out what's going on.
What's going on. You don't know until you test it. Then you take care of the nervous system. And we call what we do at the Prather practice structure function medicine.
Correct.
And we just covered that, the structure and the function.
Right. You know, it's a the FDA divides all healthcare or all healthcare products either into structure function or disease care. Disease care is where you're dealing with the symptomatology. That's through pharmaceuticals and surgery. Those are the only ways that you can treat diseases. Structure function care is all about homeostasis. Homeostasis, balance of the body. Homeostasis of the physiology, the balance of that. And homeostasis is the definition of health. So a structure function doctor is your health doctor and improves the health of the body. Pharmaceuticals do not improve the health of the body. They are important for diseases, but they don't make you healthier. So anytime that, well, everyone should be making sure that their health is improving all the time. That's not going the other way. You can always improve your health. And then if you do have a disease process going on, you even need structure function even more, because you have to keep your body healthy as you're treating a disease. So, you know, that's what we try to get across to people. We try to educate not only the public, but also other doctors who are involved in disease care, the importance of the structure function, maintaining the health of the body at whatever stage of disease that they're in. We need to be making sure that the person remains healthy.
So important. And we feel that should be 80% of healthcare out there should be structure function and 20% disease care.
Right. That
would change healthcare in the United States.
Right. We're not opposed to disease care.
Right.
That's crazy. We know the value of it, but we want things to be done much more properly. We shouldn't. The concept that you can just take a pharmaceutical and fix all your problems is just not true. And something that we need to change our mindset, and then that would also help not only in our healthcare, but even in our mental health. Way too many people have taken that up and have decided that taking some pharmaceutical, that's why we have such a drug problem, both legal and illegal, that, we need to change that whole mindset. Right.
That immediate gratification, I want it now, I want that magic pill.
Right. I want to feel better now.
And start taking responsibility. You know, I really appreciate those patients that come in, have done their research, have educated themselves also, and have great questions, are taking the responsibility for their health.
Right.
We talk about practice a proactive, healthy lifestyle. Be proactive, be intentional. So, all right, so we talked about that, and then we touched on keep moving, the importance of that, and as I work with patients that are in their 80s or 90s, how they're doing really and what they did in their 40s and 50s, and it's never too late. You can start in your 50s and 60s and make a big difference, for your 80s and 90s. So we talked about the importance of that. Sitting has become an art form, and now excessive sitting is now linked to a lot of problems, cardiovascular problems.
Sure.
Yeah.
Obesity, all sorts of different types of things. The things that have become a major issue. We also talked about that people aren't going to this generation that's coming up is not going to live as long as our generation. because of the problems that have occurred, the sedentary lifestyle, the increase in obesity, all those types of things has led to a degeneration in the health and well-being of the generations. And if we don't change things around, it's going to continue to get worse. Where people are not as healthy and is not living as long, that would be the first time in American history that that's occurred. So what are we going to do about it? How are we going to rethink things? How are we going to rethink not only our healthcare system, but also our entire culture?
So, when we come back, more on maximizing your health in the new year. You can win a free 60-minute massage in a relaxing spa at the Prather Practice. Each month, we have a drawing to give away a free massage to one of our lucky Facebook and Twitter fans. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter on our website at thevoiceofhealthradio.com. This is The Voice of Health with Dr. Robert Prather. The Voice of Health Wellness Tip with Dr. Robert Prather of the Prather Practice. What is auricular therapy, Dr. Prather?
Auricular therapy is where you're using the ear to make some changes throughout the body. Auricular therapy usually refers to electrical stimulation of the ear, and there can be a huge amount of changes that have occurred. I had a patient who had fibromyalgia, had it for years and years. We had been able to get their system balanced out, but they still had pain. We went to the auricular therapy, and after a week of treatment, the patient had been on 3 different medications for pain, was able to eliminate them all. It was a life changer. What we're trying to do along those lines is to change the perception of the brain on what's happening into the body. There are times where we can relieve the pain that someone has. In other words, there's an underlying cause for the pain that's actually occurring, and you can eliminate the underlying cause and people can still have pain or disease in different types of areas. Why is that? If you've had pain for a long, long period of time, the pain fibers become very used to sending that pain information even when the offending problem is no longer there. So when we actually look at using auricular therapy is when it's no longer a problem in the area, but it's actually more of a problem in the brain. So auricular therapy, we're actually thinking more on balancing out, normalizing the electrical impulses of the brain. The brain actually has a holographic image of you inside of there. And the body might have a false image. And
especially if it's been in pain for a while.
Especially if it's been pain and disease for a long period of time, it actually gets used to that. And the brain will actually fight changing that holographic image because it's become used to it. The interesting thing about auricular therapy, people who said, I've tried everything, nothing works at this point, those are usually the people that show up the best for the auricular therapy.
Why is that? Because nothing has really treated the brain, per
because,
se?
Yes, nothing has worked on the imaging of the brain. There is no other type of treatment. Pharmaceutical, nothing along those lines will treat that imaging of the brain. The ones that have no hope, have been everywhere, tried everything, that's usually when you find auricular therapy very, very dramatic, and you can get some amazing changes.
Schedule your appointment at the Prather Practice, 317-848-8048. That's 317-848-8048. Or learn more on our website at thevoiceofhealthradio.com. The Prather Practice, restoring hope. Detailed lab tests are crucial to understanding your health. As Dr. Prather always says, if you don't test, you don't know. There are certain lab tests that all of us should have at least once per year. At the Prather Practice, we recommend 3 affordable tests that provide the blueprint to your health. The Prather Profile is the most comprehensive blood analysis available, providing more information about the function of your body than any other test. Minerals are the common deficiencies in the body, and hair analysis is the most effective way to analyze mineral levels. The bowels have the largest influence on the immune system, and the best way to test that is through the GI Effects Stool Kit. The Prather Profile Blood Analysis and the GI Effects Stool Kit are even covered by most insurances. Don't guess when it comes to your health. Discover the blueprint to your health at the Prather Practice by calling us at 317-848-8048. That's 317-848-8048. The Prather Practice, restoring hope. You're listening to The Voice of Health with Dr. Robert Prather of the Prather Practice, the most comprehensive wellness center in the Midwest. We're talking today about maximizing your health in the new year, part 2. And we're just talking about the third point is to keep moving, the importance. So let's talk about the different type of exercise and the importance. We have aerobic,
yes.
Anaerobic.
Aerobic, anaerobic, flexibility, muscle balancing, and kinesthetic. Mm-hmm. So those are the 5 areas that we look at for exercise. Each one of them is extremely important and very important for health and well-being. Probably if you're going to pick one to do, if you're just going to do one, probably aerobic, just because cardiovascular is such a big killer. And if you can keep aerobic exercise, if you look up on any cardiovascular disease process, there are things that work and things that don't work. And every single cardiovascular disease responds to aerobic exercise. Mm. So getting your aerobic exercise really cuts down on the cardiovascular, and probably one of the biggest things that you can do to increase your lifespan. One of the things that we have in our office is something called ECP, external counterpulsation, which is basically just an aerobic exercise machine. And as we put people on that, it's amazing how many of the cardiovascular diseases go away, because you get the benefit of 5 years of marathon training in about 7 weeks. So it's an excellent type of a service that we provide, something that has a great benefit, but people can really be starting to do that just with some good aerobic exercise. And it's surprising how little it takes to have that benefit. Mm-hmm. But the body, if you're looking at it, has probably, if we were going to talk about a defect, is that the heart gets its blood when it is, the nutrients and blood when it's at rest. But it really doesn't get enough to maintain its health unless you're doing aerobic exercise. Mm. Now, we're not talking about, we're talking about like fast walking. Mm-hmm. It's not a full-out sprint, because that actually becomes anaerobic. Anaerobic is when you aren't utilizing the oxygen. In other words, as you're doing the aerobic exercise, you should be able to talk to somebody. You shouldn't be out of breath, but you should be kind of pumping your heart quickly. Mm-hmm. So that's that magic spot in there where you're getting the most benefit from your aerobic exercise, but not overstressing. And if you can do that at least 45 minutes a day, hours a little bit better, but that's 5 days a week, that's where you really get the maximum benefit along those lines. And just setting aside that time and making that a part of your lifestyle, that fast walking, will really extend your life, help your health, help you lose weight. Helps with your mood, blood sugar, the list goes on and on and on. In other words, we were made for walking.
Is there a song?
Yeah.
There's a song coming. Walking in those boots.
Boots, that's right.
And one thing, too, people, I was talking to a patient about that who's fairly young and has working on knee issues, we talked about getting on an elliptical or getting on a bike, a stationary bike. Some people, water aerobics is really good. Even arm movements, if it's just a matter of getting the blood pumping. There are so many different ways of doing aerobic exercise, and having someone help you find if you have some type of limitations, there's always different ways of doing that. Even if, I know of rowing, people who had problems with their legs got into rowing, which is a very good form of aerobic exercise. So there's many ways to do it.
The anaerobic, of course, is resistance types of exercise or burst speeds. And that's important too, and that's more of something that, if you can do that about three times a week, get in some good resistance types of exercise, build up the muscles. That's something that's extremely beneficial. The flexibility, I always like to say that babies are extremely flexible, and when you die, you're not flexible at all. So, the more that you can keep your flexibility, the younger you are. As a matter of fact, that's one of the factors that we go into for biological age testing, which doesn't have anything to do with your chronological age. It's how biologically young you are. And getting the flexibility is an important part, and getting some help along those lines. It does wonders for your health and well-being. And then body balancing, very important. That's, again, part of the whole structure function concept.
Yes.
Your body needs to be balanced in its positioning. If your head starts to translate forward, and that's what a lot of people do, especially in our computer age, that the head translation starts to throw off your system, and the body doesn't work as well.
Right.
We see a lot of changes in people just by repositioning them, making sure that the body is balanced, and people notice the difference. Especially in the older patients, they say, "Wow, I can really tell that you're moving much better, that things are really working. You're looking younger." And then the other one is kinesthetic sense. That is the definition of old age. Old age is when you lose your kinesthetic sense, which is your knowledge of where you are in time and space. And if you can maintain that, one of the things that they have found the best exercise for kinesthetic sense is Tai Chi. So
that's something you enjoy doing.
That's something I enjoy doing. It keeps you young, flexible, all those types of things. And kinesthetic sense, the balance, one of the things is we're really pushing in our office in the rehab area is balance training. And that's a re-education of the body to re-achieve your kinesthetic sense, because your balance is very much associated with your kinesthetic sense.
Well, and it decreases risk of falling.
Yes, all sorts of things, and it's just an incredibly important type of area. So making sure that you get all 5 of those areas as part of your exercise program really has enormous amount of benefits in your system.
Okay, well, let's talk about the 4th point, is get that fat off.
Oh, yes.
Why is it important to get fat off?
Well, when you start to become obese, then it changes the entire physiology of the body. The chemistry, the hormones, the pH, all starts to shift. It changes your insulin resistance, all those types of things, and makes your heart work harder. And it's not really, people talk about BMI as you're going into your doctor's evaluation.
Yeah, the body mass index.
Right. That's really not the best way to check on that. That's a good screen. But really, as you're looking at that, it's the fat percentage that is the most important. And we do a body composition analysis to determine the fat composition, which has an error rate of 2% or less. So it's a very accurate type of way of checking it. And that is what is really important. And when you're talking about, and there's a very dramatic difference in people's health once you go into the obesity. And the magic mark on that for females is 30% body fat. Once you get at 30% or over of body fat, then your health really starts to deteriorate. You cannot balance out the endocrine system because the fat starts to overproduce on the estrogen, so there's going to be a constant hormonal change. And hormones are besides the nervous system, the other thing that controls how your body works. It changes the pH. It increases your chance of cardiovascular disease. It increases your chance of diabetes. It increases your chances of cancers, all the different types of things, and really just takes down your life expectancy. For men, the fat percentage that you become obese is 25%, and you need to keep it below that. You can go too low on things, but we don't really have too many people with that problem. But there is a balance and a homeostasis in everyone's in everyone's health and well-being, and there is a homeostasis in the fat percentage. And when you change that fat percentage, have too much of a fat percentage, then you start to get into all sorts of health problems, and that needs to be corrected. Now, the unfortunate thing is the higher your fat percentage, the harder it is to get fat off. So if you are even your metabolism rate, if you are a female and have an ideal fat percentage of like 20%, if you eat a meal, your body increases by 75% on the thermogenesis. What that means is that you're burning energy. So you're going to burn up quite a few calories. If you are at 40% body fat percentage as a female, you're only going to have an increase of 20 to 15% thermogenesis.
That's why it's so hard.
So, yes, it has an issue along those lines. And then you don't have the same amount of calorie burning as when you are leaner. Then, also, what complicates it even more...
what other good news do you have?
Your hypothalamus has a set body weight for you. So if you cut down the calories, extremely, what the body does is it doesn't go to burning fat. It goes to burning muscle and organ tissue. So you leave the fat on when most diets, the way that they work, is that when you start to lose weight, you're actually losing muscle and increasing your fat percentage. So then when you stop the diet and you've lost some weight, then you have a higher fat percentage than when you started. Even though you've lost weight, then when you get back on a normal diet, your body replenishes the muscle and the organs. So you put all the weight back on, but you wind up with a higher fat percentage than when you started.
Okay, well, on that good news, it's time to take a break. No, when we come back,
we'll have an answer.
We have an answer and good news on that. Listen to the Voice of Health Radio on your smartphone or tablet on all of the top radio apps available. TuneIn Radio, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio. You can find these apps and more on our website at thevoiceofhealthradio.com. This is The Voice of Health with Dr. Robert Prather. Laughter is the best medicine.
I mean, you learn so much. ICU, we were there for 7 weeks. It was amazing. Sometimes my mother would talk out of her head, "Grandma!" We have no idea who Grandma is. We even called relatives. "Who's Grandma?" "I don't know." Her mother was an orphan, so we didn't know who Grandma. She just hollered out, "Grandma!" A few minutes later, somebody down the hall, "Yes, honey?"
A special message from the DTS Weight Loss Center at the Prather Practice.
Are you tired of making the same weight loss resolution only to end up right back where you started? Let the professionals at DTS Weight Loss Center take all the frustration out of dieting. Our nutritionists and wellness coaches know what works for every body type and can develop a plan specific to your needs throughout your medically supervised program. Make the change by visiting us online at dtsweightlosscenter.com. Dedicate, transform, succeed.
When you call the Prather Practice to schedule your appointment at our DTS Weight Loss Center, mention the Voice of Health radio show and you'll receive a free initial consultation, plus a free body composition analysis. 317-848-8048. That's 317-848-8048. The DTS Weight Loss Center at the Prather Practice. Dedicate, transform, succeed.
I was feeling so bad. I asked my family doctor just what I had. I said, doctor.
I'm Lisa Prather, and you're listening to The Voice of Health with Dr. Robert Prather of the Prather Practice, where we get to the root cause of your health issue. Well, we're talking today about maximizing your health in the new year. Before we went to break, we were talking.
I was giving some encouraging news.
No, you weren't. But it was good because we want to know, why is it so hard the more fat you have on your body to get that off? And that made total sense. They've
done many different studies on people who diet and don't diet. And on average, when they've done the studies, people who try to diet and get the fat off in 5 years usually wind up fatter than if they had never tried in the first place. Because of the way that it's done, and not understanding the physiology and how the body works. Right. So, having those answers along those lines, that's why a supervised medical weight loss is really the best, not just trying different things that you read in a book and follow in a book. It's just not going to work. Right. Well, let's talk about the good news. Okay. Because we have a weight loss program at the Prather practice that's very effective. So, Dr. Prather, what is the best way to lose weight? Well, first off, one of the things that needs to be done is that you need to make sure that people's thermogenesis, how they're burning their calories, is increased. And there are ways to do that naturally. One of the things, of course, is that there are pharmaceutical ways of doing it, but that, again, when you're talking about pharmaceuticals, the reason that they're classified as pharmaceuticals is because they're bad for you. There are natural ways to increase your thermogenesis, and we have many different types of ways of doing that. One, making sure that the endocrine system is working up to par, because one of the changes that occurs is as you put on extra weight, it puts extra stress on the endocrine system, which controls thermogenesis, and so getting the whole endocrine system up to par, supplementing on that during that time is very important. And also, sometimes just balancing the endocrine system, people can start losing. We've had people, who we just balanced out their endocrine system, and without changing anything, they drop 30, 40 pounds, and people are like, "What the heck did you do?" And so it's important to make sure that that's working right. There are different natural types of products that increase thermogenesis. Just peppermint and spearmint helps to, if you get true peppermint spearmint, not just chemical flavored peppermint spearmint like most things are, into the system, that increases thermogenesis. Green tea also does. In other words, there's many ways to naturally increase without side effects, and we can test what's the best way to do it on each individual. Well, I was doing the peppermint oil for my breath, but now it's I have it in my pocket all day long, and I'm going to be using a lot more. It does increase. We sell the peppermint oil. It's right. It's excellent. Green tea also, you can get capsules on that. That's also an excellent way to naturally to increase thermogenesis. So, there are many ways to do that. And then also resetting the body. The hypothalamus controls your weight. It sets the body's image of what's going on, and you can manipulate that. So we have different ways of working with the hypothalamus. One of the better ways, known ways, is HCG, human chorionic gonadotrophin, which helps to reset the hypothalamus so that we can change the weight. We also have natural pills that help to reset the hypothalamus. We also have homeopathy that helps along those lines. So there are natural ways that we can work with that to help to reset the body so that when you start to have calorie restriction, then your body burns up the fat instead of the muscle and the organs. Which we are, and then we constantly are measuring not your weight, because we always tell people we don't really care about your weight. What we care about is your fat percentage. Getting your fat percentage back into a normal healthy balance is what we're looking at. We're always interested in homeostasis. And homeostasis of your fat percentage is extremely important to your health and well-being. And one of the things that we really try to emphasize in the office is that balance on that fat percentage. So not worrying about your weight, but worrying about your fat percentage and getting that worked off so that when you've lost the weight, you've lost fat, not muscle. Mm-hmm. And then once you lose the fat percentage, it's much easier to maintain that because now you have a body that is working in natural homeostasis and helps to preserve that. And then we talk about how do you preserve that weight loss.
And our program, there's you have one-on-one coaching sessions.
Right.
Someone you're working with on the accountability issue, which is great. Which is
extremely important and one of the most important things on why those things are successful.
And, with the HCG, too, after the HCG portion is done, then we have another phase that people move through, that there's the accountability and we're not going into details on that. We're going to do that at another show.
Right.
But the coaching is so important also.
Oh, extremely. Mm-hmm. Extremely. So getting the fat percentage down, getting that normalized, just makes all the difference in how people feel, their energy levels, and their overall health.
Yeah, you talk about, too, the importance of fiber.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, very important.
Well, the balance of the fiber, the one thing that always proves out probably the most effective way of losing weight is increase your fiber. Mm-hmm. Because that changes the whole balance of your gut, and your gut controls how many calories come in, and you can, if you have a normal gut flora where you're taking in the proper amount of fiber, you cut down on your calorie utilization by 50%. So in other words, if you're getting the proper amount of fiber, you can eat twice as much as what you're eating and maintain your weight, mm-hmm. which is amazing.
Right.
And unfortunately, what we're doing is we have a whole whole food industry that takes out the fiber out of the food and puts in sugar and unhealthy fat. So because it makes you eat more.
Yeah.
So
you can't
trust the
corporations.
The corporations are not going to take care of you. As a matter of fact, they're there to make you fat.
All right. And that refined sugar.
Yes.
Around the holidays was hard. Yeah.
Yes.
Hard to avoid, but so increase fiber.
You're on the other side. You're out of the dark side. Now go into the light. Eat your fiber. Put away the sugar.
Yeah, and it's never too late.
That's right.
Okay. Well, we're going to go on to the mental health. And we're not going to be talking about, mental health that's diagnosed. We're talking about something that you talk about in your 8 pillars of perfect health is the Beatitudes.
Right.
You talk about a story about the twins.
Oh, yeah.
And how we see life.
It's a good little Christmas story that I told several people. Uh-huh. There was Mr. Negative and Mr. Positive. Mm-hmm. And these were 2 twins, and they were 2 kids. And the parents were just amazed at the difference between the 2. So they decided to kind of test them out. And so they put their presents in 2 different rooms with a Christmas tree. And Mr. Negative, they took him into the room and opened up the door, and there were this whole room was covered with all of his presents. They were everywhere. And it was everything that he could possibly want. He went around, looked at everything, and saw it, and then fell down into the middle of the floor and started sobbing. And they sit there and they said, "You got everything you could possibly want. Why are you crying?" He says, "Well, there's nothing left for my birthday." And then they go in with Mr. Positive. They open up the door, and what they had done is they had gathered up all this horse poop,
horse manure,
and had spread it all across the room under the Christmas tree. And he went in there and looked around and looked at it and looked here and there, and then he sits there and goes, "Yes, yes," and started to do a dance. And they sit there and they said, "You've got horse manure here. Why are you happy?" He says, "With all this horse manure manure. There's got to be a pony around here somewhere.
And that's the difference between having your glass half full and half empty. That's a great story.
Yes.
So gratitude is so important for health.
The attitude of gratitude is what they like to say.
Mm-hmm.
And, you can have a lot of different types of situations, but it creates a reaction in the body. So if, you were in here and in the room, and all of a sudden I came in a bear suit, and you thought it was really a bear, and I growled, your body would go into fight flight. Mm-hmm. Where it would be stressed. There's a whole physiological change. Your body goes acidic. Your digestion shuts down. Your immune system shuts down, and you have this terrible reaction. Then you realize it's me, and after you hit me a few times,
how'd you know?
You think it's funny, and then your whole physiology changed. Mm-hmm. So it's our reaction to things that creates a lot of the diseases in our body, not so much the things that are going on.
Well, and as I work with people, it's not, people aren't going around being chased by a tiger or a bear.
Sure.
But it's going into the workplace and the stresses of that, or even a stay-at-home mom, the stresses of that. And it was interesting. I didn't know, too, when you go in, you just said, into that fight-flight sympathetic mode, it changes your pH, too.
It changes your pH.
To more acidic.
The whole physiology of your body changes.
Okay, well, we have to go to break. Let's talk more about this when we get back. Never miss an episode of The Voice of Health so that you can stay informed and empowered about your health. Get a podcast of our show automatically delivered to you every week by signing up for our show on iTunes. You can find that link on our website at thevoiceofhealthradio.com. And don't forget, thevoiceofhealthradio.com has complete archives of all of our past episodes with an audio library of information to help you add more life to your years and more years to your life. This is The Voice of Health with Dr. Robert Prather. The Voice of Health Wellness Tip with Dr. Robert Prather of the Prather Practice. Why does the gut have such a big, effect on our immune system?
Well, 80% of our immune system's around our gut, because that's where most infection actually comes from. People with immune system problems have to look to the gut. And when I'm talking about immune system problems, I'm talking about cancer. Cardiovascular disease is oftentimes kicked off by infections also. Free radical pathology that affects that. All autoimmune diseases have a huge effect because it's a imbalance within our immune system. You always have to look to the gut for that. And you're talking about Sjogrensen's disease, Graves' disease, Hashimoto's, rheumatoid arthritis, type 2 diabetes. All those types of things really are originating in the gut. So a lot of the chronic types of illnesses that people are actually experiencing, osteoarthritis actually originates basically in through the gut. So there is a huge amount of an impact, and to be able to really treat anyone with any of those diseases, you have to go to the gut, and if you are not going to the gut, you are not really treating that disease. So understanding that and finding out what the underlying problem, and many times when people are going from place to place, doctor to doctor, trying to understand and not getting answers for their disease process, then you have to go back to the gut oftentimes to find the hidden problem. Of course, that is a big problem because it's kind of a hidden area. How do you actually analyze it? And with the Biogenome Project, they have been able to explode. It's almost like a brand new ability to do diagnostics, because now we can do genetic testing. And that testing will actually give us the information from all the way up to the mouth, all the way down to the anus. Mm-hmm. And it covers the entire thing, and nothing is actually left out. So our ability to actually find out what's going on has just exploded.
Well, let's talk about this comprehensive toolkit you use called the the GI effects. And why is this one that you've chosen to use in your office?
The information that I get in there has really been so thorough that now we can, with confidence, be able to say exactly what's going on in the gut, and that we know what is happening, and also exactly how to treat it.
Schedule your appointment at the Prather Practice, 317-848-8048. That's 317-848-8048. Or learn more on our website at thevoiceofhealthradio.com. The Prather Practice, restoring hope.
I'm walking on sunshine. Whoa, I'm walking on sunshine. Whoa, I'm walking on sunshine. Whoa.
You're listening to The Voice of Health with Dr. Robert Prather of the Prather Practice, where our mission is restoring hope to our patients. We're talking today about maximizing your health in the new year, part 2. And before we went to break, Dr. Prather, we were talking about what you call in your 8 Pillars of Perfect Health, the Beatitudes, mental health, and the attitude of gratitude.
Right.
Very important. I know one thing that I decided to do recently is to limit my social media time. It wasn't putting me in a good mood. I was starting to compare myself, out there. There's some good information on it, but I just felt like I needed to limit that,
Right.
for my own mental health and that. So that was important to me. But we were talking about the sympathetic and parasympathetic. Another thing too is limiting news. News can really cause
All that good news on the. What do you mean? I mean, oh, good. You feel uplifted after finding out how everything's going. Yeah, they don't really emphasize a whole lot of good news on the.
The worse it is, the better.
Right.
I guess for the ratings.
Right.
I don't know.
So. Yeah, it's a matter of I have patients who come in on a regular basis, and the main thing that I see that really wears people out, causes problems, is stress. And I always sit there and I says, oh boy, and I can just kind of grab a hold of their shoulders and say, you have had a stressful time since I've seen you. Mm-hmm. And they laugh and say, now I'm going to write out a prescription, no more stress. And again, they think that's really funny. Okay, tell my boss that, or tell my kids that, or my husband, or whatever along those lines. That go see me on the beach in the Bahamas, type of
That's
thing.
the kind of script they want.
Yeah, I want a script on that and make that happen. But one of the things that I like to do is get them up and just stand them up, and then I teach them how to breathe. Mm-hmm. It's you're breathing upper respiratory. You need to breathe down in your diaphragm. Mm-hmm. So I do that for a little bit, get them going along that lines. At first, they usually can't do it because they've gotten into the habit of breathing differently. And then once they do that, I go up there and I feel their shoulders again, and they're relaxed. Mm-hmm. So. It's funny to sit there and say, I don't want you to get stressed anymore. And they say, how do I do that? And it's how you breathe. Mm-hmm. You can't really control your autonomic nervous system. That's why they call it the autonomic nervous system, because it's automatic. Mm-hmm. And that's what controls the physiology of the body and controls the balance between the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. But you can control your breathing, which is part of the autonomic nervous system. And as you breathe deeply in a nice, slow type of a fashion, you change and can shift your entire autonomic nervous system from a sympathetic mode to a parasympathetic mode. Mm-hmm. And the sympathetic mode is a fight-flight. And there's a whole physiological aspect of that. The parasympathetic is the rest and the digest. That's where you get into healing, keeping your immune system up, being able to digest your food. Also, if you're stuck in a sympathetic mode, you get fat. because the body turns it into fat because it thinks you're under stress. And you need to store up fat because you're probably going to be starving pretty soon. If you're in parasympathetic, your body will actually use the fat because you're in a nice, relaxed type of state. Oh, we're okay. We don't need to really store fat. So it has a big change on how your whole body works. Your whole endocrine system, your muscular system, the pH of the body, your digestion, how the brain actually functions. All those things are controlled by just basically your perception of the world. Mm-hmm. So, one, changing your perception is a very good thing, but that's also why the people who were trying to live a long time, trying to develop their mental clarity, that's why they always did breathing exercises, because your breath controls your body. And if you can control your breath, you can control your body, and you can control the physiology of how your body works.
Yeah, I always tell people, the reason Dr. Prather's done this kind of work as long as he has,
right,
over 30 years, is your deep breathing.
Right.
Yeah, that keeps you going.
It is a very important part of your health and well-being. The perfect balance on the sympathetic and parasympathetic is that 80%, again, 80-20 rule, 80% of your life should be parasympathetic. 20% should be sympathetic. So having no stress in your life is not actually good for you. But that's not most people's problems.
Right.
My life is so good, I need a little stress in my life. Most of us can create that even if it's not there.
Right.
But I have a lot of people who create stress even when it's not there.
What do you mean?
Well, if they don't have a problem, they're going to create a problem, or they're going to find a problem, or they're going to...
Why do we do that?
It can become addictive to have that adrenaline rush. We want to worry about things. We're
not productive unless we're
stressed.
Yeah.
Right. Living stressed. Yeah. I know some very productive people who come in, and I've got one lady in mind who is extremely productive, but it's just like, can you just relax? Because her body's just like...
You don't say it like that.
I kind of do. It's just like, you're so tense. So I work with her, get her all relaxed. I do some specific types of reflex adjusting called the Logan Basic. Cranial sacral work is basically a whole chiropractic system that works on the balancing of the sympathetic, parasympathetic, and the respiratory system. The cerebral spinal fluid is part of the respiratory system, and getting that going. And all of a sudden, as I'm doing that, doing those adjustments on them, it takes a little bit of time. A lot of the people sit there and said, "Was the table moving, and was I floating? It felt like I was floating in the air. What the heck was that?"
Well, and also we have other modalities too that are helpful. The acupuncture,
yes,
very helpful. Massage, therapeutic massage, is also very important. And auricular therapy, right?
If the brain gets stuck, we can hit points on the ear, and that helps to balance out the whole brain. But also, people feel that way when I do the acupuncture. The acupuncture will release oxytocin and suppress cortisol. Oxytocin is your feel-good hormone. That's what happens when you hug someone or hold a baby and all those types of things.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So we talked about maximizing your health in the new year. Dr. Prather, we're just going to close. Any last words you want to share about that?
Again, reevaluate yourself, get out there and make some resolutions on what you're going to do. See a structure function doctor. Most people don't have one. And help them to maximize your health and your living and become more of the person you want to be.
That's right. And it's never too late.
It's never too late.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
The Prather practice is located at 8902 North Meridian Street on the north side of Indianapolis, just south of the I-465 loop. If we can help you to achieve better health, we'd love to hear from you. Connect with our office at 317-848-8048. That's 317-848-8048. Join us again here next week or anytime on our website at thevoiceofhealthradio.com for The Voice of Health with Dr. Robert Prather.